Hey guys, it's Pastor Bruce. We're in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 today, where Paul continues to respond to the actions and accusations of his opponents in Corinth. Paul is doing everything in his power to not get embroiled in the self-promotion his rivals have become so good at. He begins this chapter by relating the account of this man who had a vision of heaven. And even though scholars are pretty universally agreed Paul is talking about himself, he says, I could boast about that guy, but when it comes to myself, I don't want to boast about all the great things in my life. I want to talk about the times where I've had struggles, because it's in those tough times that Jesus is the strongest. That's counterintuitive for you and me today. We don't really want to be trumpeting all the times we've blown it in life and all the times we've gotten drugged through the mud. Instead, we'd like to talk about the times where we're the hero of the story. But this brings us to one of the more well-known passages in the New Testament. Paul says, just in case I might get too big for my britches, God has given me a thorn in the flesh to keep me humble. We have this blackberry bush on the church property that no matter what we do keeps coming back every year. It's certainly a volunteer. And if you've ever had one of these types of thorns in your finger, you're going to do everything in your power to get it out as quickly as you can, because it will start to consume your life, just that little thorn. And this is what Paul is talking about. He's begged the Lord, take this away from me. But Jesus explains to him in verse 9, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. And so Paul concludes in verse 10, for when I am weak, then I am strong. It's when I'm hurting and going through these trials that I have to rely on the Lord to carry me through each moment of each day. Paul continues on in this chapter, defending his apostleship, and he says the proof of it is all the great work that God has done through you in this church. He can't help but be a little sarcastic and telling the Corinthians that the only thing that he hasn't done for them that he did for all the other churches was rely on them for his well-being. He's not taken money from them. He's counted on other churches to support him, and for that he's sorry. You see, the false teachers were looking for the Corinthians' money there. And Paul explains in verse 14, I do not seek yours, but you. It wasn't their finances, it was them. Paul never took advantage of them. He tells them in verse 19, but we do all things, beloved, for your edification. That's the sign of a true Christian worker, building up others in the love and knowledge of Jesus Christ. God bless you as you go.